Drama, baby, drama. It is quite rare in Warcraft 3, but today is one of those days where we do have drama. And we gotta talk about it. Because as was reported on the Discords and social media accounts on this world, today it finally happened. Happy got banned on War3Champions. There we go. Here's the log. The moderators and Happy and a couple of other players have an ongoing dispute. And that dispute goes back for 2 years roundabout. So we'll figure out what is this all about, why was Happy banned, what did he do, and what's the problem with that. So we have the War3Champions ladder because Battle.net isn't good enough for us, especially after Reforged. War3Champions was our savior. Our Warcraft scene is wonderful, but it is also very, very small. So regional matchmaking doesn't suffice. On War3Champions, we do have global matchmaking, where it doesn't matter where you're from, you'll be matched with other players that are queuing, depending on your MMR, on a server that is more or less, generally speaking, in the middle of you, so both players have the fairest possible conditions. That's the baseline of the ladder. To be able to have the highest quality possible and the highest level of play on the fairest conditions, there's basically an unspoken code of conduct. Everybody behave, everybody follow the rules, and we'll be fine. Behind War3Champions, no big company. There's not millions of people who get paid to do the job. There's no community managers, so to speak. It's volunteers working on this in their free time. You probably know all of this. So, whenever there's something that needs moderation, it's a bit of a hassle that volunteers have to deal with. One of these things that we try to keep intact is ladder integrity. We want that our ladder displays who's the best across the season. We have highly intelligent mathematicians working on matchmaking, working on MMR. How much MMR do you get for a win? Why? Etc. etc. That is not just something that was copy-pasted from somewhere, but people came up with that. And that was a lot of work. So obviously, if you win a match against an opponent who has a lot more MMR than you, you gain more points. Just as, I don't know, you train your muscles more if you lift really heavy, basically, right? And if you lose to a player who was clearly unfavored against you, you lose a lot of points, obviously. And there's only a finite of MMR points. They are not getting created all of a sudden. So people, especially on the highest ladder rankings, they match each other quite a bit, and they always share these MMR points towards each other. And the best end up on top, and then it trickles down, of course. So, what's the freaking problem? The problem that is ongoing for 2 years is that some players leave games early versus other players. And there's a number of reasons for that. A possible reason is they have to play on a ping that they don't like. For some players, that's over 200. For other players, that's over 100. Then there's personal things. Like a player might have threatened you before, and you really don't want to interact with that person on any level. That has happened. Then there's players you don't want to play because of their play style. Linguaga, for example, is a pretty toxic dude in game. The Woody Wood style is probably pretty annoying to play against, so you leave early. But if you leave these games instead of drawing against them, the winner still gets MMR. And in Happy's case, or also in case of a Hitman, for example, that's a lot of MMR. So as a little example, who's Happy leaving against? A personal thing would be Blade, because Blade threatened him apparently, as he did to so many others. And here I say, once again, Blade should have no place in this community because of things like that. Then there's ping-related things, because Happy is one of these players who doesn't want to play higher than 100 ms. So he's leaving against all players from North America, all players from South America, all players from Oceania, and even some Koreans, depending on the server. So every time that happens, the other player gets 15 MMR, more or less. While if these players lose a normal match to another player, they only lose 5 to 10 MMR. So every time these guys are matched with Happy, they basically can do whatever they want to do for 1.5 games. They're not getting punished. So obviously, their MMR is inflated. And in some environments, that wouldn't be a problem. But we use War3Champions to determine who's going to be in the War3Champions season finals, for example. So if you match Happy a lot, you're automatically ranked higher on the ladder. And that might decide between will you get invited to the finals or not. Also, we use MMR for seeding in a lot of tournaments. And we're not the only ones. So if you get these wins over Happy, the easy ones, while other players don't, let's say, what's an example? If you're X-Lord, you get the free wins. If you're Hawk, you don't get the free wins. So X-Lord's MMR is higher, automatically, and then he gets a better seed in a tournament. That could happen. Stuff like that. And it's not a 1 or 2 people case. Like, we know this is the case for Blade, obviously. That's one of the reasons Blade has an incredibly high MMR. That happens to Starbuck nowadays, because Starbuck plays random and Happy apparently doesn't like it. That happens to X-Lord, because I guess Happy doesn't like him either. Same for Hitman, Linguagua, a lot of the Koreans, depending on the server, 1-0 as well. All these guys are getting wins. Like, for example, a Colorful or a Kaho has to play every game against Happy and won't get these MMR gifts. So this discussion has been ongoing for 2 years, that players who do this, and Happy is not the only one, don't get me wrong, not the only one, happens across all MMR ranges, everywhere, that it ruins the ladder integrity. And this should stop. We had discussions about this at Rara 1. We had discussions about this at Rara 2. We had discussions about this before with many players. Some players are, like Soin, for example, said, oh damn, I didn't even think about that. I'll stop doing it. And he did, for like immediately, never did it again. Other players continue to do what they do because they said, well, you're not punishing me anyway. You're just giving out warnings. Then I'll just continue to do what I do. And today was the day where people got punished. Because War3Champions released something 2 days ago, because the issue came up again. And people left games more and more and more. Because it wasn't punished. First, it was just Happy leaving games against Blade. And then when that wasn't punished, we have the result. And because Happy wasn't punished, everyone else was fine with that too. And started to do it. So it gets more extreme, extreme, extreme. It's a snowball of people leaving and ruining the ladder. So War3Champions said the following just 2 days ago. Let me move this real quick. A message from the mod team. Everyone. We have closely monitored recent trends and have made a decision regarding player conduct. It has come to our attention that players across various leagues are engaging in a pattern of leaving matches early, either to intentionally manipulate their MMR or for unspecified reasons. This behavior disrupts the ladder's integrity, creating an unfair and unpleasant experience for others. We strongly condemn this conduct. Effective immediately, players found engaging in such action will face extended timeouts or bans, regardless of their rank. Repeated offenses, despite prior warnings, will result in indefinite removal from the ladder. War3Champions was established to foster a community built on trust and good sportsmanship. We are committed to maintaining this ethos and will take necessary actions to uphold it. We appreciate your understanding and cooperation. So after 2 days of this coming out, Happy changed his behavior. And he didn't just simply leave games immediately, but continued to stay not 15 seconds, but maybe 4 minutes. So what happened in those 4 minutes? I can tell you an example that was reported to me. To trick the moderators into thinking that he didn't leave immediately, as I said, he stayed a bit. What did he do? You know the map Shadowgrave? Next to your starting position is a renegade wizard that casts the lightning shield. So Happy played his hero and ghouls, approached this camp, made it so that the renegade wizard is casting the lightning shield on another creep. This can happen in 1 out of 100 games, maybe. And then you have to move your ghouls away because they are taking damage from that lightning shield. In this case, though, Happy stayed as close as possible to the lightning shield. All his ghouls were taking damage. He sent them across to the enemy base, lost them, and went out. So that was the way of tricking the admins into thinking, oh, they won't check anyway. I'll just stay a little bit longer. In some games, he just built 3 necropolises. You know? And then as it was reported that this is happening to the mod team, they punished him. 1 day ban. If this keeps on happening, the ban can be increased. Or he learns it from it and starts playing the condition that he usually doesn't want to play on. Because that will be the ruling. It's either this or that. So, as I said, there's no professional moderators here, so this is going based on reports. If this happens and people report it, moderators will take a look. Now here comes my opinion. I know how often this was discussed in good faith. The problem was brought up to the players, like, this is the problem, this is why this is a problem, this is why this affects the entire ladder and not just your comfort. Please stop it. Please, 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 please. They tried it so many times. In good faith. It was always ignored. Except by people like Soen. So now, finally they're cracking down on this, is my opinion. I think this should have been handled a lot harsher, a lot earlier, but I also understand that it's a volunteer project and they have a lot of shit to deal with already. So now, there's finally some action against it. I appreciate that a lot. A lot. There's a lot of people saying, well, it's not the player's fault, it's the system's fault. We should have filters for ping. Doesn't work in our small community. If you apply filters, everybody wants to play on the perfect conditions, which in a perfect world, with 1 million players, this could be doable. In our small scene, it isn't doable. People say, you should have filters for who you don't want to play. Well, then everyone obviously puts Happy on the filter. Don't match him anymore to not lose MMR. It's not that easy. In my opinion, the system isn't flawed. In my opinion, the players, especially at the top, our top players in the scene, they're the top players for a reason. This is who everybody looks towards to. And they set the examples. They are supposed to be role models. They set examples and people follow their lead. If the players intends that or not, it doesn't really matter. People do. Always. So obviously there's more eyes on these top players. Obviously they'll be more reported than a person on 1500 MMR. And it's very good that they are not spared. And it has to start now. And the mod team has to go through with that now. Because once you let loose, and stop the punishment, it will happen again. Like the child trying to go for the cookie jar. You might get caught once and stop for a week, but you'll be back in 10 days to see if the rules are still in place and if you're getting caught this time. So, if that happens, report. Report, report, report. Or are you of the opinion that it's not the right thing? People should be able to leave. That it doesn't matter. Or that Happy shouldn't punish because he's happy. I want to know your thoughts on this. I also want to know how Happy's behavior will change in the 24 hours. The ban is over tomorrow. He can play tomorrow again. Will he still leave versus X-Lord, versus Hitman, versus players that he matches on US East? We'll see about that, everybody. Drama, 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 drama. A lot of people have a big opinion on that. Keep it civil, but put it in the comments, and I'll report once we have news on the Happy W3Champions drama. See you in a bit.